This miracle liquid melts belly fat and kills cortisol just in a day. If you have stubborn belly fat that will not move no matter what you do, there's Aliquid right now that's sitting in your kitchen that targets the exact hormone that's driving this belly fat, this visceral fat. But there's something that people don't share with you. That same liquid works through the pathway as the world's most famous painkiller, and that's called ibuprofen. It is one of the most widely used anti-inflammatory drugs on the planet. But the version most people already own has almost none of the compound that actually does the real work. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what that liquid is, why it kills cortisol, essentially what is driving your belly fat, and the one mistake that you're doing that would cancel out the effect. So, watch the video to the very end, and I'm also going to give you music, a 5-second test that you can run through on your own with that bottle tonight to see in the evening if it's even working. My name is Diamonds. I'm a medical doctor. I'm also a scientist with degrees in biochemistry and microbiology. I'm a pro natural bodybuilder and the founder of Sculpt by Science, where me and my team work with clients on these exact issues every single day. So picture this southern Italy. A scientist is sitting at dinner at his table and he's eating his meal. He pours fresh olive oil all over his food, and the moment he swallows this food, he stops. It just felt like something at the back of his throat that he wasn't expecting. It's this specific burning sensation. It was the exact same burning that he would get when you would swallow liquid ibuprofen. So he went back to Philadelphia with his team and he spent months testing this and this. Music is exactly what he found. What this scientist discovered changed how the scientific world thinks about olive oil forever, and nobody is sharing this online. Soap. Now, the scientist's name is Gary Baichum from Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia, and what he found was strange enough that he actually published it in one of the most respected scientific journals in Nature. You would think that a burning throat is just a sign, right? Maybe the oil is strong or there's some spice in there, but actually that burning sensation is a chemical signal. Fresh extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called dianthol, and that peppery sting at the back of the throat is the actual compound itself. So here's the part that stopped the research cold. Iathal inhibits, which means stops the same enzyme that ibuprofen stops. Right now, let me explain what that actually means in plain English, because this part really matters. Your body has alarm bells. Now, those alarm bells have a name. They're called COX-1 and COX-2. When those alarm bells are ringing, your body produces inflammatory compounds throughout your entire system. So think of these COX-1 and COX-2 like fire alarm buttons mounted on the walls of your cells. So when something triggers them, the alarm goes off, right? And then inflammation floods the body. Now, ibuprofen works by pressing and holding these buttons so that they cannot be activated, right? Think of like pressing a button and you know that the release is when the alarm happens, but you just press it. It essentially mutes the alarm, and Alio from Olive Wall does the exact same thing. It presses the button, but through a completely different chemical door, but the same alarm is silenced. It's a natural compound. No prescription is required using this. So every time you consume fresh, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, you're giving your body a small, consistent dose of this natural alarm silencer. And this is where the whole story with cortisol and your belly fat begin. So if this is new to you and this is great information and you actually enjoy this in-depth research, leave the video the gentle thumbs up, right? If you enjoy this, but let's connect the cortisol, you would think that stubborn belly fat comes down to just how much you're eating and how much you move, right? Calories in, calories out. We've heard this a lot. If it's actually driven by a hormone that most people never test for and olive oil connects to it directly, here's the chain of events. And this is the part that a lot of people don't explain. Chronic inflammation keeps your stress response system permanently switched on. The alarm is going off all the time when you're chronically inflamed, and the longer the heat stays on, the higher that the pressure is building up. And when cortisol pressure builds high enough, it does one thing above everything else. It tells your body, hey, we need to store this belly fat. Not on the arms, not on the legs, not on your face, in the midsection specifically around your belly, because that belly fat cell in your belly carries more cortisol receptors than fat cells anywhere else in your body. They're essentially tuned into the cortisol signal way more than anything else. So essentially inflammation keeps the heat on, and this heat builds this cortisol pressure, and this cortisol pressure sending this consistent signal to your music belly and to your belly fat to have storage. And this is the worst part. Your belly fat itself pumps out even more inflammation, which turns the heat up even more. The cycle itself is indefinite, and this is why people go years, decades with this belly growing. Now, Aleacanthal you should think of as the release valve for that pressure. And when it blocks that COX alarm that I talked about in the beginning, that inflammatory compound begins to drop. When the inflammation drops, the heat under the pressure cooker starts coming down, starts reducing. So cortisol reduces the pressure, the belly fat storage signal starts decreasing, and the fat that's been building in your midsection starts to release and has less of a reason to stay. So let me know. I'm curious. Have you been using olive oil every day, and have you noticed any difference with it? And I'll share with you later. Just keep on watching what kind of olive oil you need. And I want to know in the comments if you have this olive oil in your kitchen or not. Now, let's talk about the research, right? Because this sounds maybe too good to be true. There is human evidence, and at this point, this is a mechanism on a whiteboard. Now, here's the data that it turns into this real-world outcome. The New England Journal of Medicine, it published in PMed, it had over 7,000 high-risk adults, 7,000 high-risk people, and they followed those people for 5 years. The group that was eating a Mediterranean diet, supplemented with extra virgin olive oil, had roughly 30% lower rate of heart attacks. I'll say that again. The group that had a Mediterranean diet but supplemented with extra virgin olive oil had a 30% lower risk of heart attacks, strokes, cardiovascular death compared to the low-fat control group. 30% from food. And a major driver of that protection was this reduced chronic inflammation. The same inflammation that is keeping your cortisol elevated, the same cortisol that is keeping this belly fat locked in place. This isn't just a get a six-pack trend. This is one of the most compelling nutrition studies ever published. Now, the problem most people have. Now, remember the mistake that I mentioned in the start. The one thing that you're doing that is cancelling it out. This is it. And it's the reason so many of you are using olive oil and you're not getting any results. The Aleacanthal that does all of this, music, is not in every olive oil. It's not equal. Most olive oils that you're finding in the supermarket are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So here's why. Aleacanthal itself is the highest cold rest extra virgin olive oil in the market. But the moment that this olive oil is exposed to these things, to heat, to light, or to air, the polyphenols, this anti-inflammatory compound, starts breaking down. And think of this like a fresh newspaper that you just leave out in the sun. One day of all of this fresh printed newspaper will stay sharp and clear. But if you do that for a week and it just has direct sunlight on it, the ink starts to fade. And the words are technically there, but you can't barely read them. It just looks old, right? It's sun faded. And this is close to what's happening with olive oil and supermarkets that just sit there. They're in these clear bottles. They're under fluorescent light the entire day for months on end. And you never know until you've consumed it. You just buy. And by the time you're pouring it on your food or using it, the good stuff is gone. You're pouring this faded newspaper on your salad and on your chicken breast and on your salmon. Then nothing happens. So, of course, I'm going to share with you the keys, what we need to do. What should we shop for? When you shop for olive oil, we need to look for this on the label. It needs to say cold rest extra virgin specifically, not just like olive oil or pure olive oil, which is heavily refined and it doesn't contain those polyphenols that I was talking about. What we also need to see on this olive oil is a harvest date, not a best before. We need to see a harvest date. The harvest date, what does this do? It tells you how fresh this oil actually is. It's the equivalent of you taking expired medication if you don't see this, right? And anthol is highest that concentration in the first year after harvest, and it needs to be in a dark bottle because the light I mentioned earlier degrades music, the polyphenol, fast. It sun fades the Aleacanthal. So don't buy olive oil in a clear bottle. And here's this 5-second test that I promised you, and music, you can do it tonight. Take a tablespoon of your olive oil, swallow it straight. If you feel a burning sensation in music, the back of your throat, maybe it's slightly peppery or it's irritating, then the Aleacanthal is working. If it's not burning, you feel nothing, it's low on polyphenols. The burning essentially is not the flaw, it is the olive oil doing exactly what TheraSearch says. So this is the protocol. And again, when you go to your grocery store, the simple test you can do is picture you see 10 olive oils in front of you. Your eyes should scan for dark bottles first, not clear ones. Go to the dark ones. Then when you're at the dark bottles, look for the harvest date and look for the word extra virgin. That should be the next thing your eyes look for. Okay, we've located extra virgin. Then we want to search for cold pressed and harvest date. So now the question is, okay, how much, when, and how? And let me know now before we continue. I want to know, just do this for me because I'm curious. And I'll actually use this in a statistic. I'm going to take all the comments and see what percentage of you have the right one or not. Check your olive oil really quickly. Just pause the video, then come back and tell me if you have the right or wrong olive oil, and comment down below, Gil, I have the right olive oil, or I have the wrong olive oil, and I'll use this in a video because I'm thinking about running a 30-day experiment on this, so let me know in the comments. But okay, let's talk about how much, when, and how. 2 to 4 tablespoons of high-quality cold-rest extra virgin olive oil per day. This is the amount that lines up with meaningful concentrations of that alliahanthol in the research. Most people are just taking 1 tablespoon first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Now, some people use it as a base for your dressing, for sauces of the day, and that works as well, but I have to be honest here because I'm not going to pretend that this is free. 4 tablespoons of olive oil is around 400 to 500 calories of pure fat. Use it to replace the oils and the dressings that you're already eating, not to pour it on top of everything that you're already doing. So this is the swap. It's not an add-on. What it does not do is be working by blasting a high amount off it on high heated pans, right? So the way I would go about this is I would just start with 1 tablespoon. Right, we're also trying to stay in a deficit here. So just start with 1 tablespoon, maybe onto 2, and then drizzle these onto your foods. But try and keep your foods low fat. Now, the IATA itself is actually more heat stable than most people assume. But if you're cooking your olive oil on prolonged heat, it can eat into that anti-inflammatory activity that we're after, right? And really damage the polyphenol content. So I would recommend using it raw, add it at the end of your cooking, add it onto your salads, add it onto the salmon, for example. So maybe prepare the chicken breast, prepare the olive oil, prepare the meal in the air fryer, and then just drizzle a little bit of it on your meals. Pour it over the food, right? And then make sure that you're storing it properly away from heat and away from light in a cool, dark cupboard. And it should be in a dark bottle. That dark bottle is there by design. And just make sure it has that harvest date. So 3 things, decide whether your bottle should be actually bought or not, right? If it's delivering. I want to be straight here with you. The alliacanthol gets to work every single time that you consume it. The COX inhibitor starts within hours of the first tablespoon, and the anti-inflammatory signal happens and fires on the same day. So in that sense, yes, something genuinely happens on day 1, but this cortisol environment and the belly fat don't transform overnight, ladies and gentlemen. It's a cumulative effect. It's consistent daily alia over weeks that will produce real reduction in your inflammation, which is what essentially quiets this cortisol alarm. And this, over time, is what will change the hormonal environment to help you lose the belly fat in the first place. Add this as a daily habit. It's not a one-day fix music, but 1 to 2 to, I would say, 2 tablespoons for the general individual. 2 tablespoons of raw cold after cooking olive oil, and make sure that it has the harvest date, and the effects will compound over time. If it's in my shoes, if it's me right now, to give you guys context, I'm eating about 2,000 calories. I would do 2 tablespoons of olive oil dry drizzled over my meals. And if you want me to break down other everyday foods that can quietly lower your inflammation the same way olive oil does, let me know in the comments and say, hey, Dr. Mike, share your top anti-inflammatory foods, your superfoods, and I'll make that happen. Let me know in the comment section down below. And by the way, at Sculpt by Science, we look at all of your inflammatory side markers. We're looking at the CRPs, we're looking at the IL-6s, and we run over 100 blood biomarkers because we know that chronic inflammation is music, one of the most consistent hidden drivers for why our clients have their belly fat stuck in the first place. So, if you want to work with me and my team, and you want us to look at what's driving yours, you want us to look at your blood work, your cortisol markers, your inflammatory profile, it's the first link in the description, or you can scan the QR code right here on the screen, and you'll fill out a short application, and you'll speak to one of our doctors or directors directly on this call. It's no pressure. And I have always heard from people, I always check in and they say, I left that call better than when I entered. So you lose nothing. So that's the one discovery done by accident over a dinner in Italy in 2005, and it's one of the most compelling connections between what you pour on your food and how it affects your cortisol belly fat. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave it as a gentle thumbs up. If you want to work with me and my team, it's the first thing in the description. But if you wanted to know the fastest way to go from 30% to 10% body fat, this is a great video to watch next. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.